Okay, today's video we're going to talk about upgrading your website. That's something that usually the average person does about every 3 years. How that actually will have an effect on your PPC campaigns that you're running or should or could be running, let's say right now. And ultimately, how you do that, how you properly manage the transition between you updating your website to the new website that you may already have planned or want to get going and not affect your PPC campaigns at the same time. So this is actually, as boring of a topic as this may actually seem, I can promise you I've seen more people than not screw up this transition to where they lose way more money than what they should. And basically, if you do this transition, you should not be losing barely anything noticeable or very, very, very little. And if you don't know, you do lose a little bit, and I'll explain how much and why, but a lot of people are losing, depends on what your volume is, but 6 months worth of profit is possible to lose with the improperly managed transition here. So there's just some very key things that you need to know going into this so you don't have to learn through experience and lose the 6 months worth of assumed profit that your campaigns are already generating, and all the stress and anxiety of going through making the new website. Then what the heck's going on with their sales? And then having, which is typical, going to the website company and then asking them, go to your PPC company, or maybe it's the same company, and asking them and wondering what's going to happen. Is it going to come back? Is it not? Should I be doing something? Should I not? Doing something because you're panicking that's you shouldn't be doing because you're in a panic mode, not thinking rationally, and then unraveling something else and then creating an even bigger problem. Because ultimately, people don't realize it or think about it ahead of time, but if you do have a problem, you don't properly manage stuff like this, you ultimately are in a situation where you may not even be able to make payroll. And you want to fix it, but you don't know how to fix it, and any decision you make can actually make the problem worse. So anyway, I'll tell you about some horror stories I've seen about people doing this, and ultimately at the end of by the end of the video, you'll know exactly what to do to avoid all of this, okay? And I've seen people, 100 plus people upgrade their website with clients all the time doing it. Like I said, every 3 years or so anymore, basically, people upgrade their website to make sure that it stays looking modern. From a trust standpoint, that's kind of key. Your website looks like it's 10 years old. People don't trust it as much. But at the same time, upgrading your website just because of that or because you think it's a cool, hip thing to do, if you don't know what you're doing, you're going to hurt yourself more than you hurt, even if it does look old, because there's all kind of things, including derailment of your PPC campaign, that can go wrong. You may update your site and it's actually not better, which I've seen more often than even the PPC campaigns getting screwed up in the process. So anyway, I'm going to tell you about all those things that I've seen and learned over the past years and how you can avoid all this stuff for yourself. So I've seen, as inspiration for this video, I see so many screw this up, i.e. the transition between one website to another and managing people's PPC campaigns, that I wanted to make this video just to set the story straight, because there's all kinds of opinions about this between people that run the e-commerce companies or non-e-commerce companies that have a site that are generating leads, and the web design companies, and the do-it-all marketing firms, and the PPC companies themselves. Everybody has kind of a different opinion here. What gives me the right to give you the advice that I'm giving here is, I've ran e-commerce websites profitably. I've done all of this stuff myself. I've worked with clients here at GPPC for 7 years, 3 years before that at a bigger firm. And before that, I also did e-commerce myself. I've actually done everything from the highest level, managing and planning the business, to managing the website, to specializing in PPC. So I understand from the bird's eye view how all this stuff works, how it doesn't work. And so, no offense to anybody here, but if you're just marketing, it's hard to understand quite, I don't want to take anything away from anybody, but quite as well as you understand all the layers. If you're just PPC, it's a little hard to understand the web design layer. If you're a web design company, it's hard to understand the PPC layer. If you're a do-it-all firm, you don't specialize in PPC, it's hard to understand what a PPC company would do. And so I've specialized in PPC, I've sold websites, I've managed websites, I've built websites, I've owned websites, I've owned businesses, I've managed businesses, and I consult people on their business strategy as well. So I got the full kind of suite or package of, or an insight of what needs to happen for this to happen, because there's things that, as you do this, that there's problems that occur at each one of those different kind of layers, if you will, when you make the web, because the website anymore is the foundation of the business. Forget about the brick and mortar version. And I'll explain how the pieces fit together, how they should fit together, and how they can interact so to avoid the issues. Usually clients have a web design firm who makes the new site and then we manage people's PPC here. We don't do anything else but PPC. And and you could disagree with me, that's fine, but personally, I haven't seen any do-it-all web design firm or marketing firm do PPC as good as I can do it. And why should they be able to or claim they can? If you're doing, a brain surgeon is going to be able to do brain surgery better than a general practitioner. You just have more experience. Experience is how you get good at marketing. There's nothing in a book that stays current. So ultimately, the web design firm will make the website, and then the client, a lot of times what will happen is they'll go ahead and upgrade the website. They won't even tell us. The PPC campaign completely breaks, because a lot of times we don't just use landing pages that are just for PPC and everything breaks. And even if you do, the PPC pages break because it's working off of we use like a CNAME, domain name registration edit to make sure the landing pages look like it's part of the site, and do things that way. Other times I'll get word of it so I could get out ahead of the issues that I know are coming from the site updating, and then the infrastructure and the URL structure basically updating, and the hosting updating, and the domain name registration potentially updating to where pages will disappear, and that all the ads which are now pointing to broken pages now get disapproved. And the first time I'll hear about it is when we get an alert from Google, you got 500 ads respectively that are disapproved. And yes, I have hundreds of ads, because if you want to be a star at PPC in your niche, you got to do more than just a few ads. Because you're not going to win on somebody that has more than you and has specialized ads for different keywords and so forth. You would know that by watching my videos here, but respectively, we find out about it after it breaks. You don't want to be that person. So that anyway, I'll tell the person what I'm telling you here. There's major issues for you. You're going to lose a ton of money if this isn't managed properly. Put us in touch with the web design firm, and then the web design firm does. But then, ultimately they have, and I can't blame them again here, they have their own agendas. They don't have time to mess with they don't care about, frankly, what we're doing. And also, I'll just be upfront and say, they want our business. They want to take the PPC over, so they don't care if it works or breaks or whatever. So there's usually some information that's not being passed, even if I try to have it being passed between the web design company who's upgrading the site and myself, to the point where we're trying to get information about how that new site's going to look before it goes live, so we can prepare our campaigns basically, so that the new campaigns, the campaigns we have, match up to how the site will be set up later on. And even if the URL structure is the same, therefore no ads would break when the site updates, there's issues with the site being, if it's too different, the PPC campaigns will get affected. Why? Because Google's algorithm that determines who should be seeing an ad and when, because it's not just an on-off switch for, I'm bidding on this keyword and it works or it doesn't. It looks at all the people who search for a keyword and what all their subtraits are, and then whether they should show your ad or a competitor's ad in a particular situation where somebody has XYZ subtraits and another set of traits. Okay, so the site being different, the algorithm now has to evaluate, because they evaluate all the traits of the user and then also what the user does when they get to your site, and they monitor every single click that goes through Google, period. And so they know how people with certain subtraits interact with your site in which you have set site. Now you suddenly throw a wrench into the system, which is an updated site which has different bounce rates, characteristics, people interact with it differently. So what the algorithm does says, I don't know anything about this new design. We're not going to place you until we know for sure your new site's better and how it works and where we should place you again, and it'll throw your results for a loop. So your goal is basically, just to shortcut this a little bit, is to not change as much, only change as much as possible. I guess that's one tip for you. So we want to be able to see from the web design company, going back here to what we were talking about, and what they have, how it's going to look, all of that. Typically that's done by staging the site on a test server, fully analyzing it, having time to fully analyze it. A lot of times they don't give us time to fully analyze it because they don't care again. And then the whole upgrade process gets mismanaged as a process. But they'll try to put us in charge of the web design firm, if even that. A web design firm doesn't understand enough about PPC to be able to understand how to, because ultimately in a perfect world here, or in my dreams, that web design firm would be able to tell me what to do with the PPC campaigns. I can layer on my own introspective input on what they're saying, and then we change what they say that we should change, and then it would be all good. But frankly, even if they wanted to, these firms don't know enough about PPC and understand how, like for instance, what I was explaining before about the algorithm and them understanding how to interact, how to handle certain ads, and then needing history to understand where to place you in the ad auctions that Google has going on at any time, to give us that advice, even if they wanted to give it. Nor do it all firms that, you know, kind of offer. So in other words, if they're just doing web design, generally speaking, the advice they give about PPC will be not very good at all. If the web design firm also does PPC, and they whether or not there's a conflict of interest or what the business that we have from the client, I've never personally seen a general web design firm who does PPC as well as me, because they have all this other crap, websites and stuff to manage. They only have one person there that does PPC, and they only have a few accounts. To do PPC well, you have to have retrospect and introspect into landing pages, conversion rate optimization, specifically on landing pages via PPC traffic. You got to understand tracking really, really well. You have to understand how to write ad copy for certain. You got to understand for certain keywords, how it works for certain types of keywords versus others, how banner ads and specifically remarketing works, in that there's certain types of. Anyway, I won't go into all of it, but you just can't. You don't have the experience to. What you get with the PPC company is you get, before they do anything for you, they've tried it for 50 other people already. So you got an ironclad version of whatever they're using for you that they've tested and proven somewhere else. So they're not, testing and gambling with your money. And so, as a quick side, generally what happens is somebody hires me. We're too expensive for them. I'm not astronomically expensive, but they'll hire us. They'll get good results. They'll get tired of paying the fee. Then they'll try to go take what I have built for them because I made it look easy. They go to the do-it-all firm. The do-it-all firm eventually, screws it up over time, because you got to stay out ahead of it. You got to keep improving. Otherwise, people see your campaigns, try to copy them. If it was only that easy, somebody could just do it right one time, and then for good, it's good for then on. And by the time it's already unraveled to try to build it back up again, it's going to take so long you may be out of business. Who knows? You build your business up, you don't want to screw with that kind of thing. But anyway, the do-it-all firm, they don't have the experience either to advise us, even though they know about PPC there, to advise us properly how to do this transition either. So what I'm saying all this for is, don't have a false sense of security. Oh, we do PPC too. We understand how to do the transition of your news site so your campaigns aren't screwed up. And therefore, the client thinking, I don't have to worry, because the client ultimately doesn't want to work. They want to go to that web design firm, hear the fact that they know about PPC, therefore they don't have to worry about going back and forth, blah, 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 blah. It only becomes an important issue for them until it's already broken. If you have a PPC company, you got to tell them, and they have to be involved in the process, but more so, you got to have a competent PPC person that gives a crap actually also about what you're doing and what you have there on your account. And they have to be the one who kind of dictates to the web design firm how things need to be transferred over, and that PPC firm has to be given proper time to analyze the news site on the staging server so they understand how to edit your PPC campaigns. And then ultimately, for what it's worth, you give them enough time, you give them the resources like I just described to you. It can be on your PPC firm if a PPC campaign screws up, and you could even say that to them. Hey, we expect you to have as little loss in sales over this transition specifically from PPC. So we're going to tell you do whatever you need to do with the web design firm, or it could be an internal person at their company doing the new website, whatever, to where you tell us what we need to do. You tell us how much time you need, which is the more important thing. Is it going to get done in a week? It's a way bigger issue than you think it is. Switching over an entire PPC campaign that's running for years, that's built up over years, and then just having a new site pop up out of nowhere. You got to analyze the new site. You have to make a lot of smaller decisions. But you put it on that PPC person, give them the time, and then you have a chance for it to, at least then, assuming that your person is competent, not have all this loss in sales that most people get because they're not doing all this when they switch over their site every few years. Do it wrong and lose 6 months of profit that your campaigns were already generating easily. And I'm not making this up. This is not for shock effect. You screwed up bad enough. Your campaigns were making $1 million a year before. Now next year they're making 500 grand because of this transition. I've seen people screw it up so bad that they will transfer it, and then they'll transfer it back to the old site because they think the new site screwed up. Really, the new site wasn't that bad even, but they were in a panic situation, like I said at the beginning of the video, and they made irrational decisions. And so you want to go in knowing what to expect, so when it happens, you already know how to react. Don't decide how you're going to react after it happens. Oh, let's just try it. What could go wrong? That's like the average person's attitude, and that's the part where you get screwed, basically, okay? You, by the way, may upgrade the site, and the site is actually bad, and you need to roll back. And then a lot of people, because they've invested so much time and effort, and they actually paid money to make this new site, I'm not going to go back. Well, that's also a big problem, too. So, anyway, you get the background here. So why is it that why you can have a 6-month decrease in your campaign profit to the point where PPC won't even be profitable for the whole year when you add it all up, if you will, because it can be less than profitable for that 6 months time, and you're actually throwing money at it. Really throw your whole company for a loop, because a lot of people, half their sales come from PPC, either directly or indirectly through people clicking on the ads, as I mentioned, and then waiting and then buying later, and you just don't see that through the direct numbers. If you don't know that happens, that's about half of where your PPC sales come from on average. Problems come from new URL structures. So if you have new URLs, in other words, the landing page before was at /landing page, and now the new site has that same, what's supposed to be an equivalent page at /landing page site. And so you switch over to the new site, you get an alert from Google saying that the final URL doesn't work, goes to a broken page, 404 page, and they're not going to run your ad anymore until you fix the URL. Well, okay, now you can go ahead and find out what the issue was. It took a day or two to find out if you're on top of it, which sometimes it takes longer because the firm is not there to be at your beck and call to make mistakes, throw stuff at them all the time, and then expect them to fix it as soon as it's broken. That's the wrong way to work with a firm. You tell them in advance, and then put them in charge of, and let them have the authority to do stuff to prevent. But, so you have to go find the new URL. So what you want to do, in other words, is have the person doing the website upgrade to tell you what the new URLs are going to be. What I've seen a lot of times is they'll update the site. The firm will tell me what the new URLs are, but they're not all the same as they said. They upgrade the site. They had to make some changes after they rolled it out because they didn't test it properly, and then now all the URLs broke again because we have a few hundred URLs to fix. The campaigns are down like completely for a few weeks, and that company panics and does, he basically blames us for it all, and really it was just the web design firm or something like that. So there's a whole kinds of different funky situations I've seen. But you got to know what the URLs are going to be ahead of time, and you got to know when you do it, this is going to be it. You're not going to change it again after because you didn't foresee something. How you get that done is you put it on what is called a staging server. You put the whole website on a new URL, you test it, try to break it as much as you possibly can. And then only then do you suggest making it the replacement for your website. And you got to understand how the URL structure specifically works so that you can have a replacement page ready to go. So when the new site goes live immediately, you aren't waiting until the new site goes live, which is what most people do, and they're going to stupidly. You know what the new URL is going to be before the new site goes live. You have it already planned to switch over to the newer URL right away when the new site goes live, and you have no time in which the ads are going to break. And that's simply put. So another problem are radically new redesigns. So I talked about this briefly. People get invested in the new site that they have, but they'll hire a crappy web design firm. A good web design firm anymore that really understands consumer psychology, UX design, how to build a don't make me think style website. You can Google that if you understand what that is, or using that kind of philosophy. A new website anymore will cost $100,000 because there's a lot of technical stuff that goes into the programming, and you have to design. And good designers who understand what I just told you, they're $150,000 a year. And you got more than 20, 30 hours in designing an entire website. So they'll be like, oh crap, I don't want to pay that. I'll pay $10,000. They do it. The site, they waste all this time doing the site. Yes, it's cheap, but the new site doesn't convert as well as the old site, even though it may look modern. You yourself, the owner, are not a conversion expert. So how are you supposed to judge whether or not that crappy company did a good job? Your only choice is, as somebody who doesn't understand conversion psychology, is to hire a firm that has the reputation that has that knowledge and experience on it, which is the expensive firm, to make sure you're not going to screw it up. What people will do is they'll hire the cheap firm because they don't know any better, and they don't have a PhD, so why should they get paid a lot? They don't understand all these soft skills. Marketing is all soft skills and experience. So they'll do the crappy website. I'll see the crappy website go live. I'll tell the client it's not converting as good. You need to roll this back. They don't want to feel like they're stupid and got scammed and made a bad decision, so they stay committed to it, and they keep losing money and losing and losing and losing and losing and losing and losing and losing, and until it takes literally to the point where they're down to their last dollar before they realize they're basically stupid what they just did. They're stupid, and what they did is stupid. They admit it to themselves. I'm not calling them stupid, but they admit themselves their ego is finally, it's either my ego or my business. Then we switch it back. So my point is, what you should actually be doing is hiring the right firm, but also you put the site on the new staging server. If you want to prevent an issue, you give the new site on the staging server to the PPC firm. They actually are able to put part of that site on the actual main URL, and you split test the new site design against the existing before you fully transition over to it to make sure it converts as well. So you don't have to do this game. People don't want to know. They're telling themselves it works, it's got to work. No. Assume it doesn't work until it proves it does before you make and go live with it. And losing $10,000 on the investment of the web design or whatever, even if it's 50, is a hell of a lot better than realizing your campaign's no longer profitable and never will be again until you realize what you did was stupid. So that's a way to understand, if you want to try to save money, damn well you should make sure that you're testing the new site. If you spend 6 figures on a site, and it looks good, you probably won't have a problem. You could save money the smarter you are about marketing, of course, so anyway, that's the general knowledge there. Another problem are clueless firms who accidentally, quote unquote, delete landing pages. So we'll have special pages for landing pages for a PPC campaign. This new site goes up. the new web design firm, because they're incompetent, they pay less than they should. When you get paid less than you should, I can tell you from an agency owner's perspective, you're doing everything half-ass, okay? And mistakes get made that way. That's why you don't take shortcuts on this stuff. Not to say that we do that here, but I'm just saying I have plenty of experience seeing all kinds of things going back many years. So they will oversee things. They're not doing it on purpose. They delete the pages when the new site goes live. You're like, hey, where are our landing pages? And then they have to spend a week figuring out how to restore those pages, and then they get them back up. And then, so the campaigns were down for 2 weeks, and what did that cost you? Okay, so you're respectively, that's going back to the two-way communication between the web firm and the PPC agency is key, or at least the PPC person, so that they could say, hey, do not delete my landing pages ahead of time. That's another thing to kind of be aware of. So with all that said, here's how to plan for a flawless transition from website to another so you don't screw it up. Properly staged sites. I talked about this. Put the first step, there's a 4-step plan here. You do this, you're going to have an issue 99% of the time. Put it on a new URL, test, try to break it, hire people to try to break it, which is QA is what that's called. And with that, like I said, test the new site, make sure it converts better. Okay? There's ways to have half the traffic go to the new site versus the old site there's technology out there to do it. You can do it with the software like Visual Website Optimizer, so I won't get into the technicalities of that, but there's ways to do that. Make sure it converts better, make sure what you're transitioning to is better than the old site, or at least just as good, conversion rate wise. Make sure that you understand how this new site's going to look both visually there, how it's going to look architecturally, and then with that, give the PPC firm proper time to find the replacement URL. So the new site, it's got a new design. So you got to try to decide for every single URL that you have or ad that you have. Sometimes you're not going to send traffic to the same page, like on an e-commerce site particularly. It's not all going to go to the same page. So the new site's going to have a new page, and you got to compare that new page side by side with the existing page that you're sending traffic to for that ad, and decide, is it still good going to that page? If not, we have to send it to another page. And you got to do that by ad. Respectively, you have to also make sure, like I said, that the URL that traffic is going to, there's going to be a URL there. If not, it's going to have to go to a different URL, and you're going to have to pick up which URL that's going to. So that takes a lot of time. Like I said, there's a lot of small decisions. People overlook this. They're like, oh, what difference does it make, blah, 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 blah. And then they try to do it in a panic, and it gets screwed up. It's not done right in the panic. The proper time to do it is before. It's like going to war. Who wins the war is the one who's most prepared. Give them, I recommend 4 weeks to give them to analyze every single ad, like I told you, decide if the ad that's going to find out where it's going to go on the new site, that page actually is going to convert as well as the existing one, and there's not a replacement that needs to be made, and do that ad by ad. 3, you create a Google Ads editor file template. So basically, once you went through all those micro decisions for each ad, deciding if the ad, where it's going to be sending traffic to on the new site is going to convert as well, and which page it should actually go to, so Google Ads has a Google Ad Editor program that you can download, and it allows you to bulk edit Google Ad campaigns. You could put it in a template, you can download it, basically a template or snapshot of the account, and then you can have a file ready to go that if I know this page here is now going to have to go to this page here, I could put it in my file so that I could literally get it to the point which the new site goes up, I hit publish on my Google Ads editor account, that the site each ad in which I had prior decided where it should go on an ad by ad basis all goes live within like 10 seconds basically. So there's not only do you know every page, not guessing or hoping that it's going to the right place, but it is, and you studied it thoroughly to make all those decisions ahead of time and give them enough time. You don't even have to manually update it one ad at a time. It won't have a few hours of downtime. You'll have 10 minutes or 10 seconds of downtime, because right when the site goes live, you can hit the submit button, boom, all the campaigns change all at once. Which leads me into the next point, which is do the final transfer and publishing of both files, both file sets, meaning the website files that go on the web hosting server. Do that transfer. I recommend doing it at midnight, so that's your lowest time in which customers are coming in, responding and buying. Because obviously if the site updates, it's going to scare some people that are already on the site. So might as well, or 2 a.m., might as well do it where there's the least amount of people on the site, therefore the least amount of effect on your wallet. But know exactly what it's going to be. Don't pick a random time. Have the web design firm know it. Have the PPC firm know it, so that the PPC firm can have publish on the Google Ads editor file that you have prepared for the new settings as it needs to be for the new site for your Google Ads account, so that the new site and the ads get updated at the same exact time at the most optimal time that you can, and you'll experience zero downtime then. So there'll be zero risk involved zero risk for your business if you follow these instructions, because all the main risks, which are the pages have, there's the pages are not there, and because you found out ahead of time, and that the new pages are as good as the old pages, or we need new pages, or we need to make sure that the pages that we had sent traffic to before, those need to be re-hosted, or that the site in general doesn't convert as well. And it's going to take too long to update hundreds of ads and we're spending 10 grand a day on ads, and we can't even we don't want a half a day in which we're going to have the ads in a period of being switched over to a new URL, even though we know what those URLs are because we've already done it with the Google Ads editor. All those things, all those potential failure points are all taken care of in this little step-by-step system I've given you here. If you follow that, you won't have an issue. Problem is, of course, it's a lot of work. Most people aren't going to want to do it. They want to see it's human nature. I don't believe it's going to happen until it happens. Then when it happens, everybody should help me, because I'm in a panic situation, and it's not fair to other people to expect that are working for you, and they, I'll just say other people will resent you for doing that to them, and it'll stress them out and make it good for everybody to plan your new website, even if it has to take delaying it a month or whatever, and having to spend extra money with the web design firm to have extra meetings with the PPC firm and all this, the night that your site goes live, you'll sleep well because you've already taken care of every possible potential issue. I'm not going to say that there isn't other issues than what I described, but this is I've done this for 15 years. This is 99% of what I've seen go wrong, generally speaking, of how to fix it all. So take it for what you will. I have a lot of videos on this channel of other PPC money-making strategies, not so much about how to protect your assets here, but actually how to make money using PPC strategies that I use for our clients. I also have a blog at guaranteeppc.com/blog with step-by-step instructions on how I build clients' campaigns in which I have to guarantee the results. If you'd like to see information along those lines visually, you can check it out there. If you have any questions or comments or advice, questions or comments, or any thing that you think that I should have covered and did not on this video, leave me a comment down below. I get back to every single person who leaves a question or comment on this channel within a day or two personally. Apart from that, hope you enjoyed. Hope this helped you avoid disaster in your new website upgrade that will eventually come.